The transfer offer landed in 2 inboxes on the same Tuesday morning. Derek and Owen did the same job, for the same manager, at the same salary, $95,000 a year. The company was opening a flagship office in a much bigger and much more expensive city, and it wanted both of them in it. Derek said yes, and took the raise that came with it. Owen said no, and negotiated something else instead, staying remote in the city he already lived in for a much smaller raise. Neither man was being careless. Both had a reason any career coach would call correct, and both reasons were the ones you have probably heard. What actually decided this was not the size of either raise. It was how many years each of them would stay. Nobody in that meeting asked either man that question, and it is the only one that mattered. Let's keep this fair, because most videos about relocating do not. Same age, 34, same industry, same seniority, same day. Derek's raises run faster in the flagship office, 5.5% a year. Owen's run slower, 3% a year, because his company caps remote salaries below the office rate. That gap is not a detail. It is the engine of everything that follows, so I am putting it on the table now instead of burying it. State and local taxes are out of the model entirely, in both directions. And here is the number that has to come first, because without it, everything after it is dishonest. Derek's salary goes from $95,000 to $128,000. His new city costs 48% more to live in. Divide one by the other, and his real buying power is $86,486. Derek took a pay cut of $8,514, and it arrived, printed on the letter, as a raise. Socially, this is not a close contest. Derek wins it before the math even starts. Derek got a promotion-size number and a move to the office everyone wants to be in. That is a story people nod along to. Owen turned down a transfer and took a smaller raise to stay where he already was. At a family dinner, that is the guy who played it safe. Or worse, the guy who got quietly passed over. Derek has the bigger number on the offer letter, the better title, and the version of himself he wants to describe out loud. Owen has a slightly better paycheck in a way nobody can see, and an explanation nobody asked for. Almost nobody makes this decision with a spreadsheet open. They make it by choosing which story they would rather tell. Now let's run it properly, because every relocation calculator I have ever seen makes the same mistake. They compare the two salaries directly, as if $1 in the expensive city and $1 back home are the same dollar. They are not, and you already saw that. But here is the part that is not on any chart. This story has 2 separate crossover points, and they are 18 years apart. Call the first one the paycheck crossover, the year Derek's real income finally passes Owen's. Call the second one the real crossover, the year Derek has actually made up everything he gave away to get there. The first one arrives feeling exactly like a finish line. It is not one. What sits between those two lines is the entire decision, and almost nobody stays long enough to reach either. Owen's side is simpler. His salary goes from $95,000 to $99,000 in the city he already lives in, so nothing eats it. His real buying power is the full $99,000, an honest raise of $4,000. So on day one, Owen is $12,514 ahead of Derek in real terms, while earning $29,000 less on paper. Pause right here and do this with your own offer. Take the new salary, divide it by how much more everything costs where you are going, and compare that to what you make today. That is your actual raise. One more rule before we go forward, and it is the rule this channel uses on every comparison. Whoever is ahead in a given year invests the difference at 4% a year, which is a 7% market minus inflation. Because these are already inflation-adjusted dollars, using the full 7% would be double counting, and I am not going to do that to make a point land harder. 48% is not a life sentence, and I am not going to pretend Derek made a mistake. His raises really are faster. His cost of living really does climb slower than his pay, at about 4% a year, mostly rent. Run that forward and Derek's real income does recover year after year, and in year 15 his real paycheck finally passes Owen's by $713. If I ended the video there, the moral would be clean. Derek was right. The raise beat the rent, and Owen left money on the table by staying comfortable. That is the strongest, honest version of Derek's case, and I built it on purpose before taking it apart. If you want more decisions built that way, both sides all the way through before either one gets knocked down, subscribing is what tells me which one to run next. And if you have an offer letter open in another tab right now, hit the like button, because that is what puts this in front of the next person staring at one. Now let me show you what that best case is hiding. Here is what the relocation letter does not price. All of it on Derek's side of the ledger. The move itself. Movers, deposits, and breaking a lease run 5 figures before the first new paycheck clears. The overlap. 2 rents, or a rent and a mortgage, for the weeks the old place has not sold or sublet. State and local income tax. This one is not in our model at all, and leaving it out is generous to Derek, because moving into a higher tax state only cuts one direction. The partner. A spouse who has to rebuild a career, a client list, or a license in a new state is a cost no calculator includes, and most couples discover late. The trips back. Weddings, holidays, and sick parents are all plane tickets now. Every year. Forever. And one that is not money at all. Derek has to rebuild an entire social life from nothing, in the most expensive city he has ever lived in, on a paycheck that is not actually bigger yet. Now the part I promised. Derek's real paycheck passes Owen's in year 15. That is the paycheck crossover, and it looks exactly like winning. Here is what is actually true that same year. Owen has been investing his lead the entire time, and at the moment Derek's paycheck finally pulls ahead, Owen is still $128,720 in front. Passing the paycheck did not close the gap. It only stopped it from growing as fast. The gap keeps widening for 4 more years and bottoms out in year 19 at $136,665. The real crossover, the year Derek is finally, genuinely ahead, does not arrive until year 33. The median American worker stays in a job 3.9 years, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the lowest since 2002. Derek would have to stay more than 8 times the national median just to break even. If I stopped there, I would be every other channel telling you never to relocate. So let me build Derek's real case, because there is one, and it is not about waiting 33 years. It is about what being in the room actually buys. Proximity bias is documented, not folklore. People who are physically present get promoted sooner. So give Derek a promotion every 5 years, and Owen one every 10, which is roughly what the visibility gap looks like in practice. Everything else stays identical. Now Derek's paycheck crosses in year 6 instead of 15, and the real crossover collapses from year 33 all the way to year 14. That is the honest answer. Relocating does not pay because the salary is bigger. It pays if, and only if, the room converts into promotions faster than staying home would. If your employer promotes on output rather than presence, you just paid 48% more rent for nothing. Owen is carrying a bomb too, and his is worse in one specific way. Everything you just saw assumes his company keeps letting him work remote. That is a policy, not a contract, and policies get rewritten. Return to office mandates have been spreading across exactly the kind of employer that opens a flagship office. If Owen's flexibility gets pulled in year 3, he does not go back to the start of this video. He faces Derek's decision at Derek's cost of living, except 3 years older, with a salary that grew at 3% instead of 5.5%, and no leverage, because now it is a condition of employment rather than an offer. Derek's risk is slow, visible, and already priced. He can watch himself climb out. Owen's risk is invisible right up until the morning it is announced, and it converts his entire plan into Derek's plan with the head start deleted. So here is where the line actually sits, and I am not going to hand you a number I did not earn. Run Derek's salary against the cost premium, and the two break even at 29%. Below that, the transfer is a genuine raise on day 1, and you should take it. Push the premium up, and the payback date runs away fast. At 36%, Derek is whole again within 10 years. At 48%, our case, it takes 33. Past 50%, it never happens inside a working career. So take the relocation if the premium is under about 30%, or if it is under 36 and you can honestly promise 10 years, or if the role clearly promotes on-presence. Stay remote if the premium is closer to 50 than 40, if your industry's median tenure looks like the national number, or if nobody will give you a straight answer about how fast your raises will actually be. And if your employer has started using the words return to office, price that flexibility as temporary. Derek and Owen were never choosing between a bigger paycheck and a smaller one. They were choosing which decade to spend behind. Derek chose to be behind first, with a real path to being ahead later, on the condition that he stays long enough to collect it and that the office actually promotes him for showing up. Owen chose to be ahead first, on the condition that nobody takes the arrangement away. The real trap is that a relocation offer arrives with a deadline measured in days, and in that window, almost nobody does the one calculation that decides it. Not what is the new salary. Not what is the new title. Divide the new salary by how much more everything costs where you are going, and then ask yourself honestly how many years you would stay. If you cannot answer both, you are not comparing two jobs. You are comparing two numbers on two pieces of paper, and one of them is lying to you. So which one would you have signed?